Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 7 Part 14 based on novel. So let's start. A young lady wearing a green blouse and white pants was seated cross-legged on a large tree. An emerald-like zither was placed gently on her knees. Her snow-white jade-like hands extended before they gently landed on the zither strings. Ding dong. The zither strings moved slightly and the space surrounding Ying Huan Huan appeared to be distorted. At this moment, her clear eyes were focused on the zither in front of her and she seemed to have entered an extremely focused state. An extremely shocking ripple spread from the zither in front of her. Lin Dong was similarly a little shocked as he stared at Ying Huan Huan, who was emitting a shocking ripple from within her body. Immediately, his eyes fell onto her emerald zither. His eyes shrunk immediately. Soul treasure her. Based on the fluctuations given off, the zither in Ying Huan Huan's hands should be an extremely powerful soul treasure. Moreover, that fluctuation was even more powerful than his black dragon sky roaring seal. It was likely that it could be considered to be at the upper tier amongst heavenly soul treasures. It is likely that this girl has quite a significant background, this thought flashed within Lin Dong's heart. Such a high-grade heavenly soul treasure was no ordinary object. If it was sold at an auction house, it would be worth tens of millions of nirvana pills. Furthermore, most ordinary disciples were unable to fork out such a vast sum. Lin Dong was not aware of Ying Huan Huan's background. All he knew was that her elder sister was the big senior sister in Sky Hall and was the most outstanding younger generation member. From the looks of it now, the background of these two sisters' Dao sect was definitely not a simple one. Boom! Jian Kuan and Yuan Ling rushed out while this thought lingered within Lin Dong's heart. Powerful Yuan power erupted and directly covered the Fire Crystal Ape King. You wish to attack? You are seeking death. A ferocious killing intent flashed across the scarlet eyes of the Fire Crystal Ape King when he saw this scene. However, he did not show any signs of pulling back in the face of a combined attack by the Jian Kuan duo. Instead, he took a step forward before monstrous evil aura surged. His large hand, which was covered by fire-red crystals, slammed violently towards the Jian Kuan duo while accompanied by an evil wind. Boom! The unusually wild and violent palm wind from the three of them directly clashed in midair in a rampant manner. A loud sound immediately appeared. After which, a shocking energy storm instantly swept apart. That wind directly forced the Jian Kuan duo back by over a dozen steps. In contrast, that Fire Crystal Ape King merely took 2 steps back before stabilizing his body. The powerful fighting abilities of a demonic beast was completely revealed at this moment. You actually dare to come and mess with this king with such little ability? You really don't know your limits. The Fire Crystal Ape King laughed out loud after forcing back Jian Kuan duo with one punch. His laughter was filled with disdain and ridicule. However, after his loud laughter had just sounded out, a melodious zither sound suddenly appeared. After which, numerous jade-green sonic waves spread rapidly and swiftly engulfed the Fire Crystal Ape King. What nonsense is this? The scarlet eyes of the Fire Crystal Ape King flashed. His punch directly smashed at the jade-green sonic wave that spread apart. After which, he heard a cracking sound before the sonic waves were directly shattered by him. How useful! That Fire Crystal Ape King parted his lips and laughed loudly after seeing that the sonic waves were unable to even withstand one punch. However, his cold laughter had yet to fully form when he suddenly stiffened. This was because he discovered that those shattered sonic waves did not disappear. Instead, they stuck to his body like maggots in a bone. Finally, they swiftly penetrated his body. After these jade-green light penetrated his body, the Fire Crystal Ape King's eyes immediately changed drastically. This was because he sensed that his body was emitting a slight numb sensation wherever the jade-green light passed. Even his surging energy became a little sluggish. Little girl, you are seeking death. At this moment, the Fire Crystal Ape King finally became aware of just how powerful these sonic waves were. He immediately roared furiously. His scarlet eyes looked towards the young lady wearing a white blouse and green pants before his large foot stomped on the ground. Immediately, he transformed into a fiery red figure and rushed towards Ying Huan Huan together with a monstrous and fearsome aura. Boom! Ying Huan Huan's eyes paused on the zither. However, she was clearly able to sense the violent wind that had suddenly arrived. Immediately, her delicate fingers swept past her zither strings. Bright jade-green sonic waves rushed out from her zither in a lightning-like fashion. After which, they actually transformed into monstrous jade-green arrows that violently rained down on the Fire Crystal Ape King. Clang clang clang. Jade-green arrows rained down on the Fire Crystal Ape King's body. Those glowing arrows were extremely sharp. Even though the Fire Crystal Ape King had extremely powerful defenses, it was still able to feel waves of piercing pain. Moreover, those glowing arrows did not disappear after they struck him. Instead, they transformed into jade-green liquid that stuck on his body and continued to invade his body. Roar! That Fire Crystal Ape King clearly became furious because of Ying Huan Huan tactics. The scarlet color within his eyes brightened. Monstrous red light suddenly swept out from within his body and it actually forcefully shattered the green liquid around his body. After which, his enormous palm directly blasted at Ying Huan Huan. Ying Huan Huan lifted her pupils slightly. She looked at the Fire Crystal Ape King's fist, which was being violently thrown over. However, she did not look like she was going to dodge it. An enormous black metal seal suddenly whistled out at this moment. It expanded with the wind while a dragon roar resounded over the place. A black dragon spirit whizzed out from the metal seal before its enormous dragon claws collided violently with the Fire Crystal Ape King's huge fists. Bang! Wild and violent wind swept apart and the surrounding large trees were all directly blasted into powder at this moment. However, the Fire Crystal Ape King's attack was successfully blocked. You damn brat! The Fire Crystal Ape King furiously stared at the enormous metal seal that was suspended in the mid-air. He could see Lin Dong lowering his head and staring at him with calm eyes. This lady has kindly played some zither music for you. Foolish fellow, you truly lack class. Lin Dong teasingly said. Grug. Ying Huan Huan involuntarily laughed when she heard Lin Dong's words. This fellow was truly intending to piss off that Fire Crystal Ape King until it turned crazy. I will rip you into pieces. That Fire Crystal Ape King indeed became quite furious because of Lin Dong's words. Murderous intent surged within his scarlet eyes. However, he was just about to attack when two unusually strong wind rushed over from behind. They were the Jian Kuan duo, who had tailed behind closely. That Fire Crystal Ape King clearly did not dare to slight the Jian Kuan duo. Moreover, he was currently being disrupted by the zither sound and his fighting strength had declined. Immediately, he could only forcefully turn around and engage with the Jian Kuan duo again. Lin Dong looked at the unusually fierce and violent battle from high above. He waved his hand before the enormous black dragon that lingered around his body rushed forth. After which, it wrapped Ying Huan Huan within it. He could tell that the latter's zither sound seemed to possess the ability to suppress the Fire Crystal Ape King's strength. With the help of the zither sound, it would be much easier to deal with the Ape King. Hence, Ying Huan Huan's zither sound was quite important in this battle and it was necessary to protect her well. Ying Huan Huan's eyes glanced at Lin Dong when the dragon spirit whizzed over. Immediately, the speed at which she played the zither stealthily increased. Numerous jade-green sonic waves spread apart in the midair and continuously entangled the Fire Crystal Ape King, who was fighting intensely with the Jian Kuan duo. While the Jian Kuan duo was engaging in an intense battle with the Ape King, Yuan Fang also led some disciples and swiftly withdrew. After which, those Fire Crystal Demon apes that Ying Huan Huan had put to sleep earlier were all finished off one after another. Boom boom. A fierce and violent battle erupted crazily within the deep parts of the forest. However, with the flow of time, that Fire Crystal Demon ape began to show signs of tiring. This was due to the corrosive effect of Ying Huan Huan's zither sonic waves. Otherwise, just the Jian Kuan duo alone would likely find it very difficult to fight with the Fire Crystal Ape King. That big fellow is going to tire out soon. Ying Huan Huan's eyes were focused on the battleground. A joyful expression also flashed across her eyes while her movements involuntarily became a little slower. Do not slow down the zither music. Lindong was the closest to Ying Huan Huan. He was also the first to discover the zither music slowing down. His expression immediately changed as he cried out in a deep voice. Ying Huan Huan was a little startled upon hearing Lindong's voice. She was just about to immediately increase her speed when the fire crystal ape king below roared towards the sky. His loud roar blocked some of the zither music, which had slowed down. Bang! The fire crystal ape king's aura suddenly soared when the zither music was blocked. A punch forcefully pushed back the Jiang Kuan duo. Immediately, he stomped on the ground and directly fled towards the sky. Be careful, he is intending to flee. Ying Huan Huan's expression changed as she hurriedly cried out. Promptly, she tried to play her zither in order to stop the fire crystal ape king. Roar roar! However, that fire crystal ape king had wised up this time around. Numerous deafening roars that contained powerful energy wildly spread apart and blocked Ying Huan Huan's zither music. Damn it! Ying Huan Huan immediately clenched her teeth when she saw this. A cold glint flashed across her clear eyes. However, just when she was about to use some technique, Lindong, who had observed all of these while standing on the metal seal, suddenly rushed out explosively. Swoosh! Lindong's speed was extremely quick. Within a flash, he had already appeared in front of the fire crystal ape king. A 5-yuan Nirvana stage trash also dares to block this king? You really are seeking death. The fire crystal ape king immediately laughed furiously when he saw Lindong appearing in front of him. His enormous fist carried a monstrous wind as he smashed violently towards Lindong. Lindong, be careful! Ying Huan Huan and the rest below were immediately startled when they saw this scene. They clearly understood just how wild and violent the fire crystal ape king's attack was. Bang! The enormous fist was swiftly magnified within Lindong's eyes. His expression was still like an old well without ripples. A grey line was formed between his eyebrows in a lightning-like fashion. After which, it swiftly spread apart. The monstrous, evil and fearsome grey eye once again appeared. Desolate demon eye? Ying Huan Huan and the rest also saw the demonic eye between Lindong's eyebrows. After which, their expressions suddenly turned solemn. A grey demon eye appeared between Lindong's eyebrows as a shocking evil aura unfurled from it. Swoosh! Without skipping a beat, a grey light beam filled with an extremely frightening destructive force suddenly exploded from the demon eye. The light beam distorted space itself as it shot out, causing the fearsome-looking fire crystal ape king's expression to change drastically as a rich sense of danger seeped out from his heart. Roar! A violent roar was suddenly released from the fire crystal ape king's mouth. Resplendent red light poured out from his body, swiftly gathering together to form fiery red crystals which completely wrapped around him. When sunlight shone on these fiery red crystals, they looked as solid as diamonds and gave off a powerful and frightening defensive power. However, that grey light beam did not slow down at all. Instead, it directly penetrated through the empty space. In the next moment, it collided heavily on that fire-red crystal body. Sizzle! A slight hissing sound was continuously emitted the moment the collision occurred. After which, the pair of scarlet eyes under the crystal body suddenly shrunk, before shock gushed into its eyes. That was because it realized that on every spot on its crystal body touched by the grey light beam, numerous cracked lines had swiftly formed. Crack crack! The rate at which the cracked lines spread was extremely swift. In an instant, it had already spread over its entire crystal body. Break! The grey chi within Lindong's eyes surged before an icy bone-chilling word was softly emitted from his mouth. Boom! After he spoke, that fire-red crystal body was completely blasted apart. Crystal fragments permeated the air. That grey light beam flashed past in a straight line. Finally, it penetrated the head of the fire crystal ape king in a lightning-like manner to its bewilderment. The grey light directly penetrated the head of the fire crystal ape king. A trace of blood was left behind. Finally, the light shot into the distance and disappeared. A bloody hole appeared on the forehead of the fire crystal ape king. However, that fire crystal ape king did not die immediately after suffering such a severe wound. Instead, its expression suddenly became extremely hideous and ferocious. Its body staggered back by over a dozen oversteps while the aura around its body quickly weakened. It is actually still alive? Ying Huan Huan and the others were shocked when they saw that the Fire Crystal 8 King was still alive. This demonic beast was truly hardy. Bang! Lin Dong's expression was calm as he observed the Fire Crystal 8 King, whose face was covered with blood. He clenched his fist before his black metal seal whizzed over. It soared with the wind, appearing like a metal mountain as it carried a frightening strength and violently smashed onto the Fire Crystal 8 King's body. Bang! A loud sound appeared in the sky. The Fire Crystal 8 King's enormous body was immediately smashed by the large metal seal until it collapsed. Finally, it slammed heavily onto the ground. That great fall shook the entire land. The land collapsed. That black metal seal was just like a mountain and it squashed the Fire Crystal 8 King. Numerous large cracked lines ended up being created on the surrounding land. In the sky, Lin Dong looked at the Fire Crystal 8 King, which was squashed by his black metal seal. A cold tinge flashed across his eyes, before both of his hands directly moved with a lightning-like speed. Finally, they transformed into two icy cold and ferocious green dragon arms. Swoosh! Lin Dong's body emitted a swoosh sound before he appeared on the black seal. After clenching both of his fists, he violently slammed his fists on the black metal seal. Clang clang clang. A clear metallic sound containing an incomparably wild and violent strength sounded out from the metal seal. Standing beside him, Ying Huan Huan was a little stunned when she saw that the black mountain-like seal was actually directly smashed into the ground by Lin Dong. What a violent fellow! Jian Kuan swallowed a mouthful of saliva while his entire body turned cold. Lin Dong did not attack previously, but who would have thought that he had merely chosen not to? When he attacked, however, he was actually this vicious. After his attack, it was likely that the Fire Crystal 8 King would definitely die regardless of how great its life force was. Lin Dong gradually ceased swinging his large hands while Ying Huan Huan and the rest stared at him as if he was a monster. His body shook and the green dragon arm swiftly disappeared. After which, he looked at everyone and rubbed his numb fists as though nothing had happened before he said, "If you want to finish off a demonic beast, you should prevent it from having the opportunity to go all out. Otherwise, we will not be able to stop it if it wants to flee." There was still fresh blood continuously seeping out from under the metal seal at this moment. Lin Dong stood on top of the metal seal. His youthful face, which was of the same age as the rest, caused Jian Kuan and the rest to feel a chill within their hearts. They understood that if it were them, they would definitely not have such resolution. That fellow should be dead right. Yuan Ling laughed dryly and asked. Lin Dong smiled. He waved his hand and the black metal seal flew away. Finally, it transformed into a black light and rushed into Lin Dong's palm. Following the disappearance of the metal seal, a rich bloody scent immediately spread over the place. Ying Huan Huan sniffed this smell and her small face became a little pale. She clearly did not have the courage to walk over and take a look at the bloody mess below. She immediately waved her hand before the soil on the ground moved and filled up the enormous pit. After burying that blooded body, Ying Huan Huan finally hugged her emerald zither and drifted down from a tall tree. She flipped her palm and kept her zither. Desolate Demon Eye is very powerful indeed. You must be quite abnormal to be able to successfully learn it. Ying Huan Huan glanced at Lin Dong. If it was not because Lin Dong had used the Desolate Demon Eye and seriously wounded the Fire Crystal 8 King, his subsequent vicious attacks would definitely not be of no use. Jian Kuan and Yuan Ling by the side also glanced at Lin Dong with some fear in their eyes. In fact, their eyes no longer possessed even a trace of pride from before. Upon witnessing Lin Dong's true strength and his vicious methods, they no longer dared to treat him like a newbie. Lin Dong smiled. Desolate Demon Eye would greatly erode one's eyes each time it was used. By paying such a price, how could the strength obtained be weak? Of course, this erosion clearly did not pose any threat to Lin Dong, who had the mysterious stone talisman guarding his body. Swoosh swoosh. While Lin Dong and the others were chatting, a hurried rushing wind sound was being transmitted from the forest. Promptly, they saw Yuan Fang lead over a dozen disciples and swiftly rush over. Her tensed expression relaxed a little after seeing that Lin Dong's group was well. "Where is the Fire Crystal Ape King?" Yuan Fang landed on the ground, swept her eyes around and asked in a stunned manner. Jiang Kuan stomped his foot on the ground. Yuan Fang's eyes looked over before seeing the land that had been dyed red by fresh blood and the large pit on the ground. Immediately, her expression changed slightly as she exclaimed, "Have you finished it off?" It is all thanks to junior brother Lin Dong's desolate demon eye." Yuan Ling laughed. "Desolate demon eye?" Yuan Fang and some of the disciples beside her had a change in their expressions upon hearing these words. Being disciples of Dao sect, they naturally heard of this mysterious martial arts within Desolate Hall. However, they had not expected that Lin Dong was actually able to successfully master it. If it was not because Senior Jiang Kuan and the rest wore down the Fire Crystal Ape King, I would not have the opportunity to attack. Lin Dong smiled and shook his head. He had no intention of taking all the credit. "Elder Sister Fang, what about the other demonic apes?" Ying Huan Huan looked towards Yuan Fang and inquired. "They have all been finished off." Yuan Fang nodded slightly. After which, her eyes were a little complicated as she looked towards the immortal Yuan ancient tree a short distance away. If this news were to spread, it was likely that the entire Blood Rock grounds would erupt in an uproar. Compared to the seed of an immortal Yuan ancient tree, this entire mine vein was hardly worth mentioning. Everyone began to turn towards the black ancient tree that had broken free from the ground. Their fiery hot eyes were filled with seriousness. Originally, it was just an ordinary mission. However, it was likely going to become extremely complicated because of this. "How can we know whether this seedling will have a seed?" Lin Dong glanced towards Ying Huan Huan and asked. "We'll have to wait till its fruits fall. If it really possesses a seed, the seed will naturally appear." Ying Huan Huan whispered. "Based on the energy fluctuations given off by the fruits, they will likely fall in less than 5 days. 5 days, huh?" Lin Dong curled his mouth and nodded slightly. "Do we need to bring all the disciples over?" Yuan Fang asked. "That will attract far too much attention." Lin Dong shook his head gently. He spoke in a deep voice, "We should look relaxed but stay vigilant secretly. Try not to attract attention. All we need to do is to act normally." If the Blood Rock grounds was as chaotic as Ying Huan Huan had described, a large-scale operation would only end up attracting the attention of others. Should news of the immortal Yuan ancient tree spread, they would likely end up in a truly dire situation. Yuan Fang nodded. Although Lin Dong lacked the authority, his suggestions were calculated and prudent. As such, they had no reason to object to what he said. "In that case, we will wait quietly for 5 days." Ying Huan Huan's eyes turned towards the immortal Yuan ancient tree while she slowly clenched her fists. For some unknown reason, she felt like this mission would become extremely troublesome. This was a fairly dark room. Within the room, a dim flame was dancing. The light from the flame was suppressed by darkness until it became extremely weak. When one's line of sight expanded, it was possible to see a couple of black figures present within the darkness. They seemed to be seated around a circular table. Large black robes covered their bodies while an insidious aura slowly spread from within their bodies. The atmosphere within the room was quite pressurizing. It was a long while later before that seated black figure suddenly extended his sleeve. A pale hand landed on the table and gently tapped on it. "The Fire Crystal Ape King is dead." A hoarse voice was suddenly emitted from under the black robes. Yes, even those demon apes were completely finished off and not a single one of them was spared. It was likely done by those Dao sect disciples. Since when did they become so vicious? A black figure within the room moved a little before speaking in a deep voice. "For Dao sect's disciples just arrived 2 days ago. It is likely related to them. It is likely that the immortal Yuan ancient tree has also been discovered by them." That black figure was quiet for a moment before speaking in a hoarse voice. "Chief, should we attack? Based on the strength of the Dao sect disciples at the mineral vein, it will be very easy for us to snatch the immortal Yuan ancient tree." A black figure inquired. If it is an ordinary faction, it is fine to attack them at any time. However, this is the Dao sect. If we do not know whether there is a seed within the immortal Yuan ancient tree, there is no need for us to attack. Just a couple of immortal Yuan ancient fruits might be valuable, but it is not worthwhile to anger the Dao sect because of them. The black figure at the leader's seat waved his pale hand and said, "We'll wait for a few days. If there is really a seed within the immortal Yuan ancient tree, it will cause quite a commotion. Quietly dispatch some people around the mines and monitor them closely. If there is a seed within the immortal Yuan ancient tree?" A person asked softly. If there is a seed. The leading black figure's body leant forward slightly. That black robe was lifted, revealing a pale and shady face. He parted his mouth and smiled before he spoke in a dense manner. "Then, those fellows can only blame themselves for being unlucky. Kill anyone who dares to obstruct us. If I obtain the seed of the immortal Yuan ancient tree and hand it to Yuan Gate, all my previous sins will be forgiven. At that time, so what if the Dao sect becomes furious? Don't tell me that they will dare to charge up to Yuan Gate." The couple of black figures trembled as they looked at the bloodthirstiness that climbed onto his face. Immediately, they parted their mouths and laughed in a savage manner. The tree branches spread apart in the midair and blocked the light that scattered downwards, forming traces of light spots that shone on a couple of human figures seated below. A ray of light shone on Lin Dong's face before his gently shut eyes slowly opened up. After which, he looked at the black tree in front of him. At this moment, the 5 bright red fruits hanging on the tree were becoming increasingly vibrant and they looked just like ripe fruits. "Should be soon," Lin Dong softly muttered. A trace of mental energy surged out from his Niwen palace. After which, it feedbacked any activity within this forest. With his mental energy, he could sense 10 powerful auras that were lurking within the forest. They were all Dao sect disciples. Furthermore, there was also quite a number of Dao sect's disciples tightly patrolling the area further away. Shot. Lin Dong's mental energy was swiftly withdrawn. A small pair of boots suddenly appeared on the ground in front of him. He was startled for a moment before raising his head. After which, he saw Ying Huan Huan with her hands behind her. She was staring downwards at him from an angle above. Her bright and beautiful eyes were filled with liveliness. Jian Kuan and Yuan Ling were chatting softly a short distance away. However, their eyes would occasionally drift towards Lin Dong. Of course, most of the time, their eyes lingered on the young lady wearing a white blouse and green pants. One could easily tell that the both of them fancied her. "Your mental energy is quite good." The young lady stared at Lin Dong under the observation of those two. Immediately she smiled. She had actually detected Lin Dong's mental energy probing around the place. Lin Dong smiled in a non-committal manner while his heart felt a little surprised by Ying Huan Huan's sharp senses. His mental energy was usually quite well hidden. Unless it was someone who was well versed with mental energy cultivation, else, it would be extremely difficult to sense his mental energy probing. Although I mainly focus on my Yuan power cultivation, my mental energy is also quite decent. Although it is not as strong as yours, I have survived one wind lightning trial. Ying Huan Huan appeared to be aware of Lin Dong's doubts as she laughed immediately. Lin Dong's brows involuntarily twitched at this moment. Clearly, he did not expect that this young lady in front of him was actually training in both Yuan power and mental energy at the same time. He immediately came to a sudden realization within his heart. No wonder her zither sound is so mysterious. It seems like it is partly because of mental energy. It is always good to be cautious, Lin Dong softly said. He also understood that Ying Huan Huan was aware of what he was using his mental energy for. Originally, I thought that this is going to be an ordinary mission. I never expected it to become so troublesome. Ying Huan Huan sat down beside Lin Dong. Her eyes stared at the black ancient tree before she immediately laughed. However, I am glad things turned out this way. If we are really able to obtain the immortal ancient tree seed, it will be extremely beneficial for our Dao sect. There will be countless disciples who will benefit from it in the future, and our Dao sect will also become stronger. Lin Dong was startled for a moment when he heard these words. There was not the slightest greed on the face of this young lady when she spoke. Despite the immense allure of the immortal Yuan ancient tree, the first thing that she thought of was actually their sect. Lin Dong curled his lips slightly and his eyes were somewhat complicated. He had clearly been through a lot more compared to Ying Huan Huan. His experiences during these years caused him to be extremely cautious. Although he currently had an extremely good impression of Dao sect, his first thought when he realized the value of the immortal Yuan ancient tree was honestly not how he could help the Dao sect to obtain it. He might not be much older than Ying Huan Huan, but he was definitely nowhere as innocent as she was. Of course, if Lin Dong still had that mentality after all that he had been through over the years, perhaps he would not have the chance to reach this stage. Lin Dong's mouth was involuntarily lifted into an arc as he looked at the heartfelt joy on the young lady's face. A sect that was able to command the hearts of its members were the truly powerful ones. The competition between the super sects in Eastern Xian region is extremely intense. If the strength of our sect can be increased, our seniors would also gain additional protection when they are outside. Ying Huan Huan fondled her snow-white smooth chin with her hand. Her dark black ponytail fell onto her shoulders. Immediately, she seemed to have thought of something and suddenly rolled her eyes at Lin Dong. You are very talented. If you had joined Sky Hall, your future accomplishments will definitely be spectacular. Thankfully, you did quite well in Desolate Hall. Otherwise, I will really be too lazy to bother with someone like you, who makes decisions randomly based on your own preferences. Lin Dong smiled. However, he did not provide too much explanation on this matter. Finally, he understood that Ying Huan Huan did not purposefully find fault with him during the whole selection stage. Instead, she became furious over what she deemed to be his seemingly irresponsible decision. Currently, it was difficult for him to place the sect as the most important thing in his heart like Ying Huan Huan. However, he understood her perspective as well. Rest assured. If this immortal Yuan ancient tree really has a seed, we will definitely bring it back. Lin Dong softly said. Ying Huan Huan smiled sweetly. Her smile was extremely alluring as she curled her red lips and nodded heavily. Hey, what are the two of you talking about? Jiang Kuan and Yuan Ling finally could not help themselves and decided to head over. Though they sounded nonchalant, there was a tinge of jealousy within their voices. This involuntarily caused Lin Dong to gently chuckle. He was just about to speak when his expression suddenly changed. He abruptly lifted his head before he stared at the immortal Yuan ancient tree. The 5 fruits hanging on it had begun to tremble slightly. The fruits are about to ripen. Immediately, Ying Huan Huan and the others also realized it. A tense yet joyous expression surged on their faces. Lin Dong's eyes focused on the immortal Yuan ancient tree. A shocking energy ripple was being continuously scattered from it. Even the land itself was trembling slightly. Buzz buzz. The 5 bright red fruits also began to tremble more intensely. In the next instant, they suddenly trembled violently before they actually fell from the tree. Lin Dong waved his hand. A suction force erupted and sucked the 5 immortal Yuan ancient fruits into his hand. However, he did not have the time to digest them at the moment. Everyone was completely focused on the immortal Yuan ancient tree. After the fruits fell, the energy ripple that was being emitted from the tree did not show any signs of weakening. Rich green light spread from its roots. At the same time, a rich life force appeared to be emitted from within it. A joy immediately surged within the eyes of Ying Huan Huan's group when they saw this scene. Buzz. The immortal Yuan ancient tree trembled. Suddenly, a green light appeared on the tree branch. The shocking life force was emitted from within this green light. Immortal Yuan ancient seed. A wild joyous sound was directly being emitted from Jiang Kuan's mouth. Lin Dong's eyes were focused intently on the unusual green light. His eyes suddenly shrunk. The immortal Yuan ancient tree suddenly trembled intensely when his eyes shrunk. A thick green light suddenly spluttered from the top of the tree. Finally, it broke through the forest and shot directly towards the clouds. Lin Dong's expression instantly turned gloomy when he saw this scene. This video will end here.